I got a good amount of comments from a lot of you guys on my last video about Jordan Peterson, where a lot of you were telling me that God may be working in the Peterson household and that Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela, had recently found God. So of course, I immediately went to go look it up, and I found the clip of her telling her story. And as I listened to it, I heard her not only talking about how much her life has changed ever since her encounter with God, but also what battles that she's been having ever since her conversion. So we're going to play clips from her episode so you can hear her explain her experience herself, and we'll talk about how we can make sense of her struggles afterwards. But just note that the clip is too long to play all of it here, so I'll go ahead and link it down below if you want to watch the full thing. All right, here we go.
I can talk about this because I haven't talked about it before, but had some rough experiences over the summer. And about a month ago, I would say, I think I can say this, I would say I found God, which I haven't before. Like I definitely haven't before. And it was very sudden. I'm pretty new to this. And what I've been doing for the last month or so is reading the Bible and praying.
Good for you.
And I guess in a way that's more like Protestant probably. And it's been the amount of peace that I've had, I haven't had before.
Yeah.
It's completely absurd. I can't believe it. So I had this one day where I was worrying about a number. There were four really important parts of my life and all of them were going really badly. In ways where I was like, what am I not trying hard enough?
Yeah.
What more can I do? I can't do more to fix these four major problems. And then I met somebody. I was going to check out Austin to see if I wanted to stay in Austin. I met somebody there and he's Christian. And he was like, well, how are you managing with all these problems? And I was like, I'm not managing well. I'm really not managing well.
Yeah.
I'm working and I'm keeping it together, but I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't depression. I just wasn't feeling good. And he was like, well, that's why you need God. So I was like, well, I don't know. Yeah, okay, maybe that sounds great, but I don't know how to get there. And he said, ask him to reveal himself to you. And so I went home that night and I was pretty upset about these four major problems. And I was in bed, so I was praying, seriously praying, please give me some sort of sign, please reveal himself to you. And the next day, all four problems cleared up in ways that I made sense. It was they could have cleared up, but the likelihood of all four of them clearing up randomly that day was just too much.
So in a nutshell, what we hear is that she prayed and she asked God for a sign. And then the next day she had an experience that she believed was God answering her prayers. But the thing that sealed the deal for her was that her experience was followed by a sense of calm that she's never experienced before.
So that happened. And I also woke up with this sense of calm I hadn't felt, the sense of calm right here. And that was enough. I was like, okay, that's good enough for me.
But then a couple of weeks later, she started wondering if her experience was actually legit and if the things that happened to her could better be explained apart from God's divine intervention.
Everything was great for about 2 weeks. So I was praying, I was reading the Bible. I was like, this is fantastic. Everything's working out. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, just a little bit, just this one little thought that was like, well, am I being silly? There are actual more logical explanations for why things turned around. And that happened. And then I had 2 just miserable days. So it was just 2 miserable days. And it was like, what is happening? Why do I feel this existential horror again? Which I would differentiate from depression because I've been depressed before. This was really existential angst.
Yeah.
It was at this point that she says that she had a rough couple of days where she was experiencing doubt and other negative emotions. But what ultimately, and very recently actually, what helped her get out of that space was her having another experience in the form of a dream. I
went back. It's not like I'd stopped reading the Bible or stopped praying, but I was just a little bit more removed from it. Yeah. And so I went back to it, and then I had the most wild dream. I went to sleep that night, and I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I had a dream. I think I'm allowed to talk about this stuff, but I had a dream, and this loud, thundering voice just yelled, "Do it," in the dream. And I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and was like, I think I just got yelled at by God. I think that just happened. Anyway, so it's been a wild month. I'm doing really well. It's just, I'm a little bit shocked.
Now, first off, when it comes to her experience, of course, I'm not in her head, so I have no idea what she experienced. And at the same time, I also don't have any reason to think that her experience wasn't from God. And regardless of what you think about her experience, honestly, for me, I just praise God that she seems to have found Christ. But when it comes to her struggle, I know that on some level, almost all of us can relate to this in some way. We may have had some experience with God that led us to a moment of conversion, and then afterwards, we may have had a sense of peace that we never felt before. But as life goes on, and for whatever reason, we either start to distrust the experience or we start to forget about it. And as a result, we feel as though we've drifted away from God and we start to doubt everything that we once felt so certain about. I think Michaela did a great job in articulating what I've heard so many Christians describe throughout the years. Now, I don't know if she's going to go through a moment of crisis like she just went through. I don't know if she's going to go through that again in the future. But if I were to give her one word of encouragement, it would be for her to think about her new walk with God similar to how you might think of marriage. In the beginning, in the dating phase, the positive experiences and feelings that you get can lead you to establish the relationship and the commitment, but those feelings aren't the actual relationship. My intense experiences and emotions may have led me to the point of getting married, but if the assurance of my marriage were based on how I felt, then I would start to doubt the validity of my marriage as my feelings and moods start to change. Those strong initial feelings of infatuation that I had for my wife weren't permanent, and praise God that they weren't. If they were, not only would I have never been able to get anything done in life, but I also would have started to fall more and more in love with my personal feelings and experiences and the emotional payout that I was getting, rather than falling in love with my wife for who she is. And although I know that this would have sounded insane to younger me, I now know that the security that comes from a commitment in a relationship is far, far more superior of a foundation for a relationship than personal experiences or feelings would be. It's kind of like the Israelites during the Exodus. Their initial experiences with God were so strong that they were led out of Egypt, but they weren't enough to keep the Israelites satisfied in the long run. And the same could be said about our walk with God. Feelings and experiences are enough to get us in the door, but we're never fully satisfied with them. And after the effects start to fade, we need more and more of them in order to try to get the same feeling that we once had in the beginning. And if our assurance comes from those feelings, then we'll be on a rocky foundation, because the feelings are going to come and go so that we can develop a deeper relationship with God. But thankfully, our assurance should come from the promises that God made to us. And not because of how good we are or how faithful we are, but because of his faithfulness and the fact that he can't break his promises. It's his commitment that keeps us, and it's his commitment that serves as the foundation for our relationship with him, no matter if we get the feelings of peace from him or not. So no matter how we feel, we know that we can trust that Christ died for us, also because of the historical evidence that's been left for us to verify. And that same evidence also shows that he also rose from the dead. And for those of us that trust that he did in fact raise from death to life, we know that we can also trust that we will also raise from death to life, just as he did. Now, of course, much more could be said about this. And if you're left wondering what actually made me think more carefully about experiences with God, I fleshed that out in detail in a video that I did on Shawn Mendes when he talks about his experiences with Jesus as he listened to Christian worship music. So go ahead and click on this video to see what I mean. But the next time your faith starts to shake based on your changing internal state, what are you going to say?
What do you mean?